Shana Tova. This summer, with much fanfare, our Saturday morning Torah study group completed an almost 25-year journey through the entire Tanakh. And just as we finish our annual Torah cycle, each Simchat Torah, and begin all over again, so too the Torah study group read the last lines of 2 Chronicles and jumped right back to the beginning words of Genesis. Whether coincidence or cosmic sign, it just so happened that right as I prepared to teach about the Garden of Eden, I received an email from Kim Beauchamp, our Director of Operations and Facilities. Subject line, more apples. The email was not about the famed tree in the Garden of Eden, which probably did not bear apples, despite popular imagery throughout the centuries. Kim was letting us know that our PTBE trees were ripe, ready to be picked. But still, I can't avoid a biblical reference when I see one. In the Garden of Eden, the first two unnamed humans are permitted to enjoy the fruit of all the trees save for one, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. If they dare eat of this fruit, God warns, they will die. Famously, the shrewd serpent convinces the woman that this isn't true at all, and both humans eat and then hide from God. When God discovers what they have done, the humans are cast out of the garden, and the way back is barred. The New York Times crossword often contains clues like utopia, bliss, idol, for the answer Eden. It's become shorthand for a heaven on earth, a simpler, bucolic way of life. For some rabbinic thinkers, it is a goal to eventually return to Eden. And for many readers, expulsion from the Garden of Eden represents a break or a rupture from God, the loss of innocence, the beginning of the hardship and pain that are part of life. One of the experiences I find most meaningful as a participant in Jewish community is singing together. It always fills me up to hear our voices come together in the moving melodies of our tradition. But during the last high holiday season, I wasn't able to experience that. Shortly before the holidays last fall, I was diagnosed with sudden sensory neural hearing loss, or a rapid loss of hearing. Less than 2 weeks before Rosh Hashanah last year, a doctor drilled a small hole into my eardrum in order to inject steroids directly into my right ear. He did this 3 more times, the last appointment 2 days before Rosh Hashanah. Between the injections and the vertigo that I was experiencing from hearing loss, I was quite literally reeling as the high holidays arrived. I physically felt as if I was underwater. I struggled to process the music, unable to hear its depth and beauty. I was acutely aware of my balance for fear it might fail me, particularly while holding a Torah scroll. And like the sudden rupture from Eden, I had expected none of this when I arrived at the ENT office for the first time. That autumn was filled with vertigo medication and an aggressive course of oral steroids when the injections didn't help. I felt a deep sense of loss. Not just the loss of some of my hearing, but the bigger loss of taking my hearing for granted, not imagining it as something I could lose at this age. I never expected to be shopping for hearing aids in my mid-30s. And despite this loss, I'm still profoundly aware of how fortunate I am to have health insurance and financial resources, to be able to advocate for myself, and to receive a diagnosis that is not life-defining. I share this update with you all not to elicit sympathy or medical advice, though perhaps you'll understand why I tilt my excellent left ear towards you in noisy settings. Rather, I'm telling you about this experience because I know I'm not alone in experiencing a real interruption in my life. Maybe you too have navigated unexpected health challenges, shifting your abilities or your assumptions about what your body or mind can do. Maybe a career you spent years striving for has you disappointed and unsatisfied. Maybe a friendship that once seemed rock solid has faltered, leaving you unmoored. Perhaps the path ahead once felt so clear and obvious, but you have hit unexpected roadblocks and swerves off the main road. Or maybe you didn't ever have a clear vision of the path ahead, and it's always felt like a guessing game, uncertainty as to where the road will lead. We have conscious and unconscious narratives about what our lives will look like, but ruptures and interruptions are, by definition, unexpected. Our High Holiday liturgy speaks to this tension. We are reminded that the future is inherently unknown. This morning we chanted Unatana Tokef. On Rosh Hashanah it is written, and on Yom Kippur it is sealed. Who shall live and who shall die? We enumerate the possibilities, who by fire, who by water. It's vivid, it's graphic, it's scary. I think it's supposed to be. We name the uncertainty and terror of being vulnerable, mortal beings without the control we wish we had. The Jewish poet Marcia Falk adds to our liturgy, our lives are stories inscribed in time. At the turning of the year, we look back, look ahead, see that we are always in the days in between. The High Holidays call on us to face our own mortality, but the one harsh certainty is that we will all die, although we don't always know when and how our time here will end. How we live and what happens to us during that life is another matter. As the writer Anais Nin once noted, we do not grow chronologically, absolutely. We grow sometimes in one dimension and not in another, unevenly. We grow partially. We are relative. We are mature in one realm, childish in another. The past, present, and future mingle and pull us backward, forward, or fix us in the present. We are made of layers, cells, constellations. We are always in the days between, the living in between. My hearing loss may not be evident to you. There are lots of life interruptions that aren't obvious from the outside. Maybe retirement isn't panning out to be what you imagined. Maybe your career has milestones that you just aren't meeting. Maybe where you are is simply not where you thought you'd ever be. Maybe you feel paralyzed by the state of the world, a sinking sense that we are moving backward as a society, unsure how to respond to a myriad of challenges. The reality of life may well be that there is no clear and obvious path without roadblocks and swerves, but reaching those moments can still feel jarring, painful, with a sense of betrayal from one's body, one's relationships, or one's expectations. I look to our texts filled with ambiguity and multiple interpretations, and especially to Eden. A simpler life lost, rupture from the divine, recognizing that we can't always stay where we were, that we don't always have a choice. But it's not a story of pure and simple lament. Professor Robert Kawashima explains that it's a popular misreading that humans were meant to live an idyllic life in the Garden of Eden. Instead, Rabbi Lawrence Kushner reads the story as the price a human being pays for growing into an autonomous adult. He notices that God tells the human not to eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, but also that God placed the tree right in the middle of the garden, rather than hiding it away deep in the woods. Had that been the case, Kushner notes, the chances are high we might never have discovered it. We would all live in childhood eternal. But he explains that's not what life is supposed to be. Kushner's God reasons, better they should know some sin, estrangement, and guilt, but at least become autonomous human beings, rather than remain insipid goody two-shoes infants. For Kushner, Eden was all a setup. Eating the first fruit was not a sin, but a necessary pre-arranged passage toward human maturity. Because it's only when humanity leaves the garden that life really begins. They acquire names for themselves. Their eyes are opened to sexuality, and they engender the next generation. There wouldn't be much Torah, much character development or plot had they stayed in Eden. That doesn't mean it's always joyful or easy. The humans have left the only home they've ever known and need to create anew. As Professor Shauna Dolansky notes, the humans trade a life of ignorance and possibly immortality as God's gardeners for a taste of divine knowledge. The Hebrew is literally the tree of knowledge of good and evil, but it can also be understood as knowledge of all things, the good, the evil, and the full range of human experiences between them. There will be pain and suffering, and also hope and possibility. Leaving Eden means embracing one constant: change. The novelist Philip Pullman reflects, we are expelled from the Garden of Paradise, and we have to go not back but forward, all the way round the world, in fact, and re-enter paradise through the back door, as it were. In other words, we have to grow up. We have to leave the unself-conscious grace of childhood behind and go in search of another quality altogether, the quality of wisdom. And that involves engaging with every kind of human experience, making compromises, getting our hands dirty, suffering, toiling, learning. And it's very painful and it's very hard, but it's the only way forward. And in the end, if we keep on trying, we shall have acquired a deeper, fuller, richer understanding than we ever had before we tasted the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. I was a French major in college, and during my study abroad time in Paris, I was tasked with writing my own obituary. It's not as morbid as it sounds. We were practicing a formal literary verb tense. Well, I don't remember everything I recorded in my obituary. I do recall that I worked as a human rights activist and journalist, married a very attractive French man, and lived with him in Vietnam with our 2 adorable adopted children. So I became a rabbi. I married a very attractive American man. And maybe there's still possibility out there for more, but I love so much about where I am. That's the other thing about unexpected interruptions and swerves. Some of them are painful and grief-stricken, but others are just the predictably unpredictable shifts in what we imagined and where we end up. There can still be some grieving. For me, less for the French husband, and more for the wistful, well, what if I had become a journalist and lived in Vietnam, road not taken? Perhaps you've experienced a different kind of interruption, an unexpected path that led you to adventures unforeseen, a career change for the better, a new love later in life. Maybe you've set aside a long-held dream and discovered something new, something right for the you that you are now. None of us ever know where our roads may take us. If life were that certain, we would still be stuck in the Garden of Eden, unchanging, unchangeable, never knowing the oys and joys, the unpredictability and the possibilities that make up a life. I don't mean to romanticize it. I'm not grateful for my hearing loss. I don't really think it has taught me valuable life lessons. I wish it hadn't happened. But it has happened, and it has interrupted some of my expectations. Some of our roadblocks work this way. Others can be swerved around, the road regained. Still others cause us to shift our path entirely, sometimes for better, sometimes for worse, but always with the unknowns and what-ifs of unexplored trails. I do wish life could be a bit more predictable, more in our control. But I look at the departure from Eden in its full scope, its heartache and possibility. Rabbi Toba Spitzer writes, the biblical authors were acknowledging a simple reality. To be alive is pretty damn scary. The Bible is not a Hallmark greeting card. It is a holy, sometimes contradictory muddle of beauty and horror, love and pain, hope and hopelessness, a lot like life. So standing on this precipice between the old year and the new, I'm holding those uncertainties, interruptions, changes. I'm not embracing each and every one. Not all of them are welcomed. But as Dar Williams sings, when you live in a world, well, it gets into who you thought you'd be. And now I laugh at how the world changed me. We don't live in Eden. We live in the world. And we keep becoming step by unexpected step. Shana Tova.